A bombshell leak recently revealed that one of Donald Trump's top advisors had been privately coaching Vladimir Putin how to more effectively manipulate Trump himself. And following this public humiliation, Trump is now desperately trying to downplay it and sweep it under the rug. But the damage is done, and a bipartisan group of lawmakers are calling this advisor out and demanding that he be fired. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we're going to play several clips of Donald Trump here because this is big news. But first, I want to show you what happened and what the reaction is. As The Guardian reports, Traitor. U.S. representatives call for Trump envoy Witkoff to be fired after leaked Kremlin call. Republicans and Democrats warn Witkoff, quote, cannot be trusted after reportedly advising officials on peace plan. A handful of U.S. representatives have reacted furiously to a leaked recording in which the special envoy to Ukraine reportedly coached Moscow on how to handle Donald Trump, but most have so far remained mute on the revelation that American officials were advising a U.S. adversary. I want to stop right there. So this is a leaked recording that Witkoff was effectively trying to show the Russians how they can manipulate Trump into a peace deal. Don Bacon, a Republican representative, called for Steve Witkoff's immediate dismissal. Quote, for those who oppose the Russian invasion and want to see Ukraine prevail as a sovereign and democratic country, it is clear that Witkoff fully favors the Russians, the Nebraska lawmaker wrote on X. Quote, he cannot be trusted to lead these negotiations. Would a Russian paid agent do less than he? He should be fired. Brian Fitzpatrick, a Pennsylvania Republican, wrote that the leak represented, quote, a major problem and, quote, one of the many reasons why these ridiculous sideshows and the secret meetings need to stop. He urged that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, be allowed to, quote, do his job in a fair and objective manner. Democratic Representative Ted Lieu went further, calling Witkoff an, quote, actual traitor, and adding, quote, Steve Witkoff is supposed to work for the United States, not Russia. In a recording obtained by Bloomberg of an October 14th phone call between Witkoff and Yuri Ushakov, Vladimir Putin's top foreign policy aide, Witkoff said peace would require Moscow gaining control of Donetsk and potentially adding additional Ukrainian territory. Quote, now me to you, I know what it's going to take to get a peace deal done. Donetsk and maybe a land swap somewhere, Witkoff said, according to Bloomberg's transcript. Quote, but I'm saying instead of talking like that, let's talk more hopefully because I think we're going to get a deal here. Witkoff also gave Ushakov tactical advice, including how the Russian leader should approach the issue with Trump. It included suggestions about scheduling a Trump-Putin phone call before the planned visit of the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, to the White House. On Wednesday, Ushakov appeared to confirm the call's authenticity to Russian state television, suggesting the leak was meant to, quote, hinder negotiations. During the conversation, Ushakov said Putin would congratulate Trump and call him, quote, a real peace man. Trump defended Witkoff Tuesday night. We have a clip of that. We'll get to that in a second. The president's special missions envoy, Richard Grenell, meanwhile, called for the leaker to be fired, not Witkoff. Quote, find the leaker and fire them immediately. No excuses. The anonymous leaker is a national security risk, he wrote in a social media post. The controversial 28-point proposal would force Ukraine to surrender the entire Donetsk region, including areas recently under Ukrainian control. These territories would become a demilitarized buffer zone recognized internationally as Russian territory. The plan would also grant Russia control of Luhansk and Crimea while freezing battle lines in Kherson and Zaporozhye. Russia has not fully captured Donetsk despite nearly 4 years of war. Putin said earlier this month that the U.S. plan could form the basis for a final settlement, though the Kremlin claims it has not discussed details with Washington. Trump announced earlier Tuesday that he's sending Witkoff to Moscow to meet Putin and the U.S. Army Secretary, Dan Driscoll, to meet with Ukrainian officials ahead of a possible Trump-Zelensky meeting on Friday. So again, this is like a summary and the reactions to this, which is that Witkoff was helping the Russians figure out how to manipulate Trump, how to present this to Trump in a way that is favorable to them. It leaked, and it's now become a total shit show with even a bipartisan group of lawmakers demanding that he be fired. Now, with that in mind, Trump is trying to downplay it because of course he is, right? This is humiliating for him. Oh my God, a leaked phone call revealing, like, listen, here's how you, a foreign adversary, need to approach this for my boss, to manipulate my boss into agreeing with you and me. You, a foreign adversary. This is humiliating for Trump. If Trump fires Witkoff, then it's validation. If he publicly fires Witkoff, I should say, it's validation that Trump recognizes Witkoff, saw Trump as an easy dupe or an easy mark, as someone to be manipulated on behalf of the Russians. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. If he fires Witkoff, it validates the view that Trump is a dupe and easily manipulated. What are you going to do there? What are you going to do? So again, in typical Trump fashion, he errs on the side of not giving the media their scalp, not giving the Democrats their scalp, right? And tries to sweep it under the rug. It's no big deal. Check it out.
Europe really wants to see it end if possible.
There were a lot of Republicans who felt that the first 28-point plan was too favorable to Russia. Have you changed
Well,
that?
that was just a map. All that was is a map. That was not a plan. It was a concept. And from there, they've taken each one of the 28 points, and then you get down to 22 points. A lot of them were solved, and actually very favorably solved. So we'll see what happens.
So that's one clip. There are more. This is from Air Force One. Let's see. Here's another one.
Do you think that Ukraine was being asked to give too much land back to Russia? I know at one point you said they shouldn't have to give any back.
It's really up. Look, the way it's going, if you look, it's just moving in one direction. So eventually that's land that over the next couple of months might be gotten by Russia anyway. So do you want to fight and lose another 50, 60,000 people? Or do you want to do something now? In some cases, the land is going in the other direction. So they're negotiating. They're trying to get it done. You want to have a border? You can't have a border that goes through a highway or a border that goes through the middle of a town. So that doesn't work. So it's a long, complicated process. And very, very sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. A couple more, and then we're actually going to read some more excerpts from the transcript as well. Here's the clip in which Trump is asked specifically about Witkoff.
They're losing too many people.
Have you heard this audio that Bloomberg has of Witkoff coaching the Russians on how to appeal to you?
Well, I haven't heard it, no, but that's a standard thing, because he's got to sell this to Ukraine. He's got to sell Ukraine to Russia. That's what a deal maker does. You got to say, look, they want this. You got to convince them of this. That's a very standard form of negotiation. I haven't heard it, but I heard it was standard negotiation. And I would imagine he's saying the same thing to Ukraine, because each party has to give and take.
Okay, so let's stop right there. All right, again, that's Trump trying to downplay everything, right? So what I'm going to do, because this is very small font, you'll be able to see it on your screen, but I will not be able to read it very easily, okay? This is an excerpt, like a transcript of the audio, okay? And I'm going to read it here where I can zoom it in a bit more on my side. So, SW stands for Steve Witkoff. YU stands for Yuri Ushakov, okay? This is the Russian, Putin's top foreign policy guy. So Steve says, Yuri, here's what I would do, my recommendation. Yuri says, yes, please. Witkoff says, I would make the call and just reiterate that you congratulate the president on this achievement, that you supported it, that you respect that he is a man of peace, and that you're just really glad to have seen it happen. So I would say that. I think from that, it's going to be a really good call. I want to stop right there. So right out the gate, he's saying, listen, if you want to get your way, you need to kiss Trump's ass and flatter him. Here's how you can manipulate Trump into doing what you want. Staggering. Because let me tell you what I told the president. I told the president that the Russian Federation has always wanted a peace deal. That's my belief. I told the president I believe that. And I believe the issue is that we have two nations that are having a hard time coming to a compromise. And when we do, we're going to have to make a peace deal. I'm even thinking that maybe we set out like a 20-point peace proposal, just like we did in Gaza. We put a 20-point Trump plan together, and that was 20 points for peace. And I think that maybe we do the same thing with you. My point is this. Yuri says, okay, my friend. I think that's a very fair point our leaders could discuss. Hey, Steve, I agree with you that he will congratulate. He will say that Mr. Trump is a real peace man and so, that he will say. Steve Witkoff, but here's what I think would be amazing. Yuri says, okay. Steve Witkoff says, what if? Hear me out. Yuri says, I will discuss that with my boss and come back to you, okay? Steve Witkoff says, yeah, because listen to what I'm saying. I just want you to say maybe this to President Putin because I have the deepest respect for President Putin. Yuri says, yes. Witkoff says, maybe he says to President Trump, Steve and Yuri discussed a very similar 20-point plan to peace, and that could be something that we think might move the needle a little bit. We're open to these sorts of things, to explore what it's going to get to take a peace deal, or to get a peace deal done. Now, me to you, I know what it's going to take to get a peace deal done. Donetsk and maybe a land swap somewhere. But I'm saying instead of talking like that, let's talk more hopefully, because I think we're really going to get a deal here. And I think Yuri, the president, will give me a lot of space and discretion to get a deal. Yuri says, I see. Steve says, so if we can create that opportunity, then after this I talked to Yuri and we had a conversation, I think that could lead to big stuff. Yuri says, okay, that sounds good. Sounds good. Witkoff says, and here's one more thing. Zelensky is coming to the White House on Friday. Yuri says, I know that. Chuckles. Witkoff says, I will go to that meeting because they want me there, but I think if possible, we have the call with your boss before that Friday meeting. Yuri says, before, yeah? Witkoff says, correct. Yuri says, okay, I got your advice. So I discuss that with my boss, and then I come back to you with that, okay? Steve Witkoff says, okay, Yuri, I'll speak with you soon. Yuri says, great. Thank you so much. Thanks you. Steve Witkoff says, bye. So again, to be very clear, we have one of Trump's top advisors coaching a foreign adversary on how to manipulate Trump by appealing to his vanity and his narcissism because he's a fucking child. And Trump is now desperate to sweep that under the rug because that makes him look like a toddler. It makes him look like a toddler. This is not good news. And it puts Trump between a rock and a hard place. What do? You fire Witkoff. All it's going to do is confirm the reporting that everybody thinks you're a friggin' dupe. All you people have to do is just dangle car keys in front of you. What are you going to do in that case, right? You probably don't want to keep him in because this is really embarrassing, but what's the alternative? And so it seems like right now, Trump is doing what Trump often does when his subordinates embarrass him in this way in his second term. He keeps them, at least for now. So there you have it, folks. Just a bombshell leak confirming that even Trump's top advisors think that he's an easily manipulatable dupe and that foreign policy is all about, and ending wars are all about appealing to Trump's vanity. It's an indictment of Trump. It's an indictment of his top staff. And this is a humiliation that people should be talking about more. And it says something that a bipartisan group of lawmakers are disgusted with this and think that Witkoff should be fired. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.